Hello and welcome to a special edition of The Buck Stops Here. Elections at their heart and at their core are all about the numbers, and we are going to spend a lot of time over the next half an hour, 45 minutes really looking at numbers and then some of the political implications of all that we are seeing. We're in that in-between day. A whole bunch of exit polls were out yesterday. The NDTV poll is out tomorrow, and then of course on Friday, the big day when we will actually get to know what the voters have said. Because remember, polls are polls, but what actually happens on the day is sometimes something completely different. But let's just tell you first of all, what has happened so far with all the exit polls. A whole bunch of exit polls came out yesterday, and this is what the poll of polls said. We found every single poll that we could find, put them all together, and that's what it roughly adds up to. The BJP and its allies, the NDA, at 286. Remember, the NDTV opinion poll at the start of the entire process had said about 275. It's even more than that. At that time, a lot of people were asking questions like, what's happened? How come NDTV is giving them so much? Dorab's here with me. I'm going to get him to talk about that also. But at that time, nearly a month and a half ago, the figure was 275. But now, NDA, according to the poll of polls, is at 286. The Congress alliance is 103. So Congress almost certainly worst performance ever. Others at 154. This is what the poll of polls says. Now, two different theories have come up as to what implication all of these exit polls might have for the final day. And I'm going to take you through those theories in just a couple of minutes. But let me start introducing our guests. We have with us Shashi Tharoor is joining us, Minister of State for the moment, HRD for at least another couple of days. Shashi, thanks a lot for being with us. Yogendra Yadav is also with us, who's is of course Aam Aadmi Party, but I'm going to be getting you to do a lot of psychological work for us as well, Yogendra, right now. In a couple of minutes, we're going to be joined by GV Narasimha Rao. GV is actually there right now, and he's done a poll which we are going to be revealing to everyone right now in just a couple of minutes. Sudhindra Kulkarni is also about to join us, and Dorab here as well. But before I come to the numbers, one of the news points of the day, Sashi, I have to get you into this. Immediate knee-jerk reaction. The Congress party yesterday, nobody came to discuss any of the exit polls. But today there seems to have been an immediate knee-jerk reaction of having every single Congress leader whom we could find all lining up to say, this has got nothing to do with Rahul Gandhi. It's the government's fault. Rahul Gandhi is fine. It's not his fault. Is that a bit Pavlovian?
Listen, Vikram, first of all, we don't particularly set much store by exit polls, so we're not about to assign blame to anybody in any hurry. Because if you look at the history of exit polling in this country, for the last decade, every single exit poll has been wrong by a factor of 20 to 30%. And in the case of the numbers that you've just been rattling off, neither 20 nor 30% is going to put the BJP in power. So let's realize that we are talking about a rather hypothetical exercise based on an extremely unscientific method of sampling of populations. I'm sure Yogendra can speak to that. And as far as we are concerned, we have been amused by exit polls in both 2004 and 2009. In 2004 showing the BJP winning, in 2009 showing us well behind the BJP, both of which turned out to be wrong. Finally, even these exit polls that you talk about a poll of polls, but there was one poll that gave us 2 seats in Rajasthan, another poll gave us 14 seats in Rajasthan. So that's the kind of discrepancy we have. Then putting them together and averaging 8 doesn't make any sense, does it? And that's exactly what you've done. So I'm not going to be sitting here drawing conclusions from polls I don't believe in. These polls, frankly, are a waste of time.
All right, fine. I did think you're going to say a lot of that, and Yogendra is going to be able to talk about a lot more on this. You didn't, Sashi, say anything about what I started off by asking you, which was the Pavlovian response, saying that none of what has happened could be possibly Rahul Gandhi's fault.
Well, I don't think at the moment we're looking at fault in any case. Okay. And frankly, in a democracy, when the voters express their preference, it's not because it's somebody's fault or not. There are various factors that come in. In our country, sadly, we have a very long tradition of anti-incumbency, as everybody has learned, including the BJP to its own cost in 2004. We also have factors that range from an extremely well-financed and well-marketed election campaign on the one side to various local, regional and caste and other parochial factors. So it would be very simplistic to either blame or credit any one person for anything. So if anyone were to sit around pointing fingers at somebody, we're going to say, look, if we lose, we take collective responsibility.
All right, let me now come to the two theories, and I'm going to get everyone in, because in both Yogendra and in Mr. Narasimha Rao, we do have people who are sophologists and pollsters turned politicians, so they'll be help us to shed some light on this. We heard what Shashi was saying, that in 2004 and 2009, both times there was the exit polls did get it slightly wrong. Now, two theories, possible theories for that. Here's theory number one, that the exit polls have been systematically overestimating the BJP or overestimating the NDA, and there are possible reasons for that. This is what happened, for example, in 2004. Exit polls, you just had that on your screen, 2004, exit polls saying 260 or something like that. If you take all of them for the NDA, the actual was something completely different. In 2009, again, overestimating the NDA. And as part of this theory number one, the theory also says that the UPA is systematically underestimated by the exit poll. So if you look at 2004, the exit poll said the UPA is going to get 181. Actually, it was 222. In 2009, exit polls, if you take all of them put together, I mean, I have to say, to give Dorab credit, the NDTV one was much closer than the others, but 198 exit polls is what they said, and 262 is what the UPA said. So theory one is that there is an overestimation of the BJP and an underestimation of the UPA, and the reason for that is that sometimes BJP voters are more forthright, they come out and talk, there's an underbelly of voters who don't like to talk about it, and so on and so forth. That's theory number one. Let me now come to theory number two, which we've been hearing all day long. Theory number two says something different. It says that the exit polls underestimate the winner. Whoever's going to win, the exit polls are underestimating that. So therefore, if in 2004 the UPA won, or in 2009 if the UPA won, it won eventually, both times its seats were underestimated. Now, that's the theory, and there is some other evidence to bear that up, which we can keep on going and showing people. If you look at some of the state elections that have taken place, go all the way 2012, take Uttar Pradesh. Predicted seats for the Samajwadi Party 191, that's what the exit poll said. Actually won 224. Look at Bihar 2010. Predicted seats for the BJP, and in this case it's the BJP. Predicted seats for the BJP alliance 164 seats, eventually won 206. 2013, predicted seats for the BJP 125 seats, finally won 163. 2013, Madhya Pradesh, predicted seats for the BJP, seats eventually won 165. So two different theories, both will point to completely different things. Mr. Narasimha Rao, let me get you in now, and then I'm going to go to Yogendra. Two different theories, and it's important to know which theory we should go by, because if it's theory one, then if the poll of polls is saying 286, BJP and the NDA could actually end up at something like 150, 160, 250, 260. If theory two is correct, BJP could cross 300. Who knows?
Yeah, let me take up both the propositions that you have talked about. You see, there is a school of thought which actually tells you that BJP is overestimated by the numbers you have given out. Look at even Rajasthan, say elections which were held only hardly 4 months ago. Madhya Pradesh, in all these states, the BJP was estimated to get only about 60% seats, whereas the actual strike rate happened to be something like 80 and 90%. So it's not true that BJP is always overestimated. I think the important thing for any survey to be on track is to see that there is no bias in the survey per se. And if there is a bias, and if that bias happens to be, bias would always be in favor of one party across all the states. And if it's an unbiased survey, you might overestimate a party in some states, but you will definitely also underestimate in some other states. And that's how you see in many polls, your state level projections in a couple of states might go awry, but your national projections turn out to be correct. So I think therefore, I believe most of the media polls have no reason to be having a bias in favor of any one party or the other. And therefore, I don't see any reason why they should be, the entire error should be in one direction. That's point number one. And the point number two is, I think in the last couple of elections, I think we have the polls have underestimated the Congress party, particularly in 2009. I think there are a couple of signals in this election which one is reading, even the man on the street is reading. I think which actually give you a lot more confidence in the poll projections. And signal number one, you have had the highest turnout ever evidenced in this country. All the wave elections in India have always had turnouts of more than 60%.
Okay.
And the biggest victory ever recorded was in 1984 by the Congress party, when the turnout was the highest so far at 64%. And now you are looking at a turnout of something like 66 or 68%. So therefore, there is likely to be a wave in this election, and the polls which are projecting a close victory are not really showing any sign of a wave. So the numbers could be even bigger.
Okay, Yogendra, let me get you in on both the theories. Which of the two theories do you first put on your psephological hat, your pollster hat? Tell me which of the two theories you think is better, and then we'll come to the politics of it and specifically what the polls are saying about the Aam Aadmi Party. But first, the psephology. Which of the two theories do you think is more correct?
Vikram, I'll begin as a political person first. It always used to amuse me when I used to sit on your side as to why politicians quarrel about these numbers once the elections are over. I mean, it's exit poll, for God's sake. It's not going to influence any vote. And why can't we be straight and candid? If we all agreed at the end of this show that Congress will get 50 seats, it's not going to make a difference. And if we all agreed it will get 350 seats, that's again not going to make a difference. So I'd rather that we, be more candid and straight about these things. To my mind, what's important, I mean, both the theories are possible. It is true that BJP has been systematically overestimated, and the reason is simply very shoddy sampling. Shoddy sampling tends to overestimate or overrepresent urban, well-to-do, middle class, upper caste, all of whom happen to be strong BJP supporters. So yes, there is some reason to believe that. And it is also true that in landslide elections, and it happens only in landslide elections, the winner is underestimated because pollsters fear in putting big figures out. I don't think at this moment we can definitely conclude which of the two errors we are likely to commit. And I really frankly do not see why we should be wasting a lot of time in settling this theory today. I think we'd be wiser after 72 hours, and that's probably the best way to do it. The only thing we can influence right now is stock market and satta market.
We have 72 hours to fill, so what better way to spend the time?
We can fill it quite meaningfully. We can spend it far more meaningfully, Vikram.
Okay, I'm about to come to the far more meaningfully part. But
yeah,
Dorab,
just on that thing, I think what's important, Vikram, what's important about the polls this time is that there is significant degree of convergence between exit polls, of the serious exit polls, which have a decent track record. There's a fair degree of convergence actually, and the conclusions do not seem to be very out of sync with whatever we've experienced on the ground. I say that with responsibility, knowing fully well that I'm from opposition. I have no reason to celebrate BJP's good performance. But from whatever signals we have, it seems that BJP is headed for its best ever performance, and Congress is headed for its worst ever performance. Aam Aadmi Party appears to have made a small but significant national debut. This is the broad picture. Beyond that, trying to get into absolute correct numbers, we have simply not reached that level of maturity where either you or I or even Dorab can be confident about where we are headed in terms of exact numbers. So I think it's correct to simply say, this is the big picture, we are sure of that. Beyond that, we are probably not sure.
So Yogendra, that's almost sounding like a bit of a concession speech from you at this stage, because if you take what the polls are saying, and I'm going to come to Dorab as to what he feels about this, the NDTV opinion poll is only tomorrow, exit poll is tomorrow. But from what we've seen so far, you're saying the Aam Aadmi, it's roughly correct what you've heard. The exit polls right now are saying Aam Aadmi Party could be 1 seat, 2 seat. I think the maximum is 5 or 6 seats, and 3% vote share nationwide. Would you be satisfied with that in the first big general election for the Aam Aadmi Party? Because clearly that's a long way away from what the hype and the headlines were in January, where Arvind Kejriwal was being put up there along with Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi as a possible prime ministerial candidate. From there to 3 or 4 seats or 5 seats and 3% vote share is quite a come down, isn't it?
Vikram, your question is precisely the kind of question which makes politicians not speak the truth. If you start serious, candid, honest conversation, then comes a anchor question: are you making a concession speech? Which is to say, next time onwards, I should be careful before I have honest conversation.
No, but that wasn't my intention.
I think let's be more serious about it, Vikram. Here is a party which has started from zero a year and a half ago. And if one were to go by exit polls, and my sense is that we would do a shade better than that, because apart from BJP being overestimated, the other global trend is that new and smaller parties have always been underestimated by all opinion polls all over the world. So my sense based on that is that we would do a shade better than the exit polls are saying. But even going by that, here is a party which started a year and a half ago, and which appears to be getting 3 to 4% of national vote share, which is 1.5 to 2 crore people. Remember the debut of BJP in 1984? They got 2 seats. Remember the debut of BSP? They got 2.5% and 3 seats in 1989. And here is a party which is not a continuity of any earlier party, which is not based on any caste community appeal. If a party like this does this, and also the party has appeared to have had a second breakthrough in Punjab. Punjab is something we need to look at clearly. If we have achieved our second political
one of the
breakthrough
polls says
Delhi,
you might be getting,
to me, these
the
are very
Chanakya
important
poll, I think,
things.
says 5 seats for you in Punjab, which if it comes true would be...
Vikram, forget seats. Dorab would tell you votes are important.
Okay.
Polls are saying we are getting anything between 25 to 30% votes in Punjab, which is very, very significant. Punjab politics could change forever.
All right, let me get Dorab in. Dorab, of course, the NDTV exit poll is out tomorrow. But I started by talking about 2 theories. Which of the 2 theories do you think is correct? And that's, of course, assuming there's going to be an error. It's possible that this time everyone is going to get it more or less correct.
I share Yogendra's view that at times one theory holds, at times another theory holds. See, what happened in 2009, we forget, is that the Congress almost got a landslide in urban areas. As Yogendra's landslides often are difficult to anticipate. In a multi-corner or UP, for Congress, it was a landslide. Nobody anticipated the 20 plus seats they got. If you look at the difference between what the polls said and what the UPA got, it could be put down to urban India, where they swept almost every seat. Now, when look at the current election, if the BJP gets X% and X plus 5% in UP, probably pick up 10 more seats. So that escalation that happens when you pick up a few more seats in a landslide is very difficult to anticipate. And I think that is why we should not say is this or that, but I'm trying to explain the 2009 understatement of the Congress. I think 2004 we all got it wrong. It's probably the only time that the entire industry got the wrong winner. Otherwise, the number of votes and seats, it's never been the wrong winner.
So like if you take, for example, again coming back to some of the exit polls that we saw yesterday, 2 or 3 different polls would have said, for example, the BJP is getting 34% seats in Uttar Pradesh.
34 seats, not
34% of the vote is what they are saying. 34% of the votes. One person has interpreted that to mean 50 seats, and others interpreted that to be 70
but
seats.
Vikram,
so,
normally what happens that when you win a 4-corner fight, it's not how many votes you get. If you get 40% and I get 39, you're almost dead. If
but
you
there
get
are others
40,
who are getting 20.
The number 2 guy, so the distance between the first and the second guy that determines in a 4-corner fight, how much space do you leave in the second guy? These are not, for instance, the last election, Mayawati got the highest number of votes in UP and the 3rd highest number of seats. Anchors sit and assume that things are so easy for us, that if we could just toss a coin and get an answer, we'd all get it right every time. Slightly more complex than that, Vikram.
Okay, slightly more complex than that. All right, now one of the reasons, as Shashi is also mentioning a short while back, even within all the polls that we've seen so far, significant differences in certain states. Rajasthan, for example, something like 4 or 5 of the polls are saying it's a landslide for the BJP. One poll is saying that actually the Congress could win. Karnataka, 2 or 3 of them are saying it's going to be the BJP which is going to win. A couple of them are saying that the Congress is going to win. In Orissa, actually, it's slightly confusing as to what's going to happen. Punjab also is somewhat different.
Vikram, life is confusing.
Life is confusing. But if I was to ask you all now, and Yogendra, just with your polling hat on, not with your political hat, but I'm going to start with you, Mr. Narasimha Rao. Of the polls that we've seen so far, and I know you've done one yourself, which do you think are the states that are still somewhat unclear as to what's going to happen?
You see, one thing I have noticed through my own polling throughout this election, and also the feedback that I have gathered from across the country, I think unlike many elections, I think I will certainly be speaking to you on the 16th, unlike most wave elections this country had seen, be it 1984, 1989, even to some extent 1999, this election, to my mind, the undercurrent is there running across the entire country, and possibly television also had a role to play in this, possibly, and that's something that needs to be investigated. And therefore, as per my reading, I do not see the BJP tripping in any state across the country compared to the base it had in 2009. It's improving in every state, and there is no reversal, there is no negativity I can see anywhere, even in Punjab. While most journalists felt that it was going to be a rout for the BJP Akali combined, not only my poll, most polls show that BJP Akalis are still in the lead in Punjab. And whereas, so the states to be looked out for, I think if one goes by the past experience, I would say number one is Tamil Nadu. I think all the polls now seem to give broadly similar numbers, a very small number to the NDA, and that's a state which can really surprise. I recall 1998 parliamentary election. There was a ADMK BJP alliance in Tamil Nadu. The alliance was not expected to get any seats. In fact, my own poll showed the alliance winning very few seats. But on the day counting began, on the day results started, trends started trickling in, and there was surprise on everyone's face. So right. Make no mistake, if these polls were to prove somewhat surprising in some states, I think Tamil Nadu would be a candidate in my opinion. In most other states, I think the trends are likely to be on similar lines. And also, let me also say, Bihar, the JDU, some polls are giving them a large number of seats, and I don't see them actually in contest in not more than 3-4 seats. So it's a triangular fight, but largely it's a direct contest between the BJP-led alliance and the RJD, and the RJD will certainly improve upon its 2009 performance, and that's a state to be watched out for too.
All right, Shashi, any states that where you think, you know, I know you said you don't entirely believe the exit polls, but Rajasthan, for example, would you be surprised if the Congress was to get 13-14 seats in Rajasthan? And in Bihar, would you be surprised if, at least as one of the polls has said, that JDU and that Lalu and you together would get just 2-3 seats? Would that surprise you?
RJD. Yes, I mean, I mentioned the Rajasthan example. I'm glad to add the Bihar example, but I tried to get your attention earlier because I'm the only panelist who didn't ask the question about the two theories. You asked me a different question.
Okay.
And I do want to make the point that one point that has not been stated here is that Congress has been systematically underestimated, both in polls, general opinion polls, and in exit polls. And this has been a pattern throughout the last decade or two. And one of the reasons for this clearly is the nature of sampling leaves out the typical Congress voter in many, many places. You don't get your fisherwoman, you don't get your chaiwala, you don't get your vegetable market seller answering questions of pollsters, and they are simply underrepresented in all these polls.
Okay.
And the fact is,
can I just take you up on that? Because that brings me to the theory too that I was saying. What you're saying has been quite often stated that the BJP voters will come out and talk to pollsters, Congress voters will not. But as I was saying, theory 2 kicks in states like Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh.
The pollsters won't come and talk to them.
That's
also part of the problem.
Let's just take 2013, few months ago. In both cases, the Congress was not underestimated. In fact, it was overestimated. BJP, the exit poll said BJP is going to get 125. They actually got 163. In Madhya Pradesh, the exit poll said that BJP is going to get 141. Actually, they got 165 there. So in both cases, the Congress was not underestimated.
That's because of the other flaw. Fair enough. That's because of the other flaw in the polling practices in our country, which is in the conversion of percentages of voter preferences expressed into seats. And that is such an unscientific art, because it really isn't a science, that it's almost invariably wrong. I think we've already had a reference to this earlier in the context of Mayawati and UP, when she got the highest percentage of voter preferences and only the third highest number of seats. The parliamentary system does not lend itself very easily to this kind of prediction. And on top of that, it's complicated by the sheer size and scale of our country, the vast diversities within. So when you're projecting a national election, the margin for error is that much greater.
Okay.
As I pointed out, and no one has yet contradicted me, every single exit poll in the last 10 years has been wrong by a margin of 20 to 30%. And those are not small variations.
Not true.
In America, they talk about a margin of error of 2 or 3%.
Okay.
You know, this
Dorab, that's not always
let
happened.
me just make a couple of points. What is Mr. Tharoor said about people being picked non-scientifically and chaiwalas not being picked. This time, all the people in our polls have been picked from the electoral rolls. A chaiwala has as much possibility of
That's
being
the
in the
Hansa
electoral
NDTV
rolls.
exit poll which is coming out
He
tomorrow.
And the pre-polls too. That there is as much chance for the chaiwala being in the poll as the great industrialist. But that's one point. Secondly, he said that about conversion of votes to seats. Nobody denies that. It is something of an art and something of a science, and it takes a longer doing. But he said we were consistently understating and our sampling is poor. This time, until 1 week before the US election, Gallup was saying Romney was going to win a 1-to-1 fight. Now nobody is making accusations of poor sampling and not getting chaiwalas and leaving out the blacks and going to the Latinos. Nobody wants to get a poll wrong. This is your, you are a professional.
Right.
So it's not that, I think all serious polling organizations are desperate to get the numbers right.
Okay.
But it's not an easy task to do.
Okay, Yogendra, let me come back to the question, and I want to turn to some swing states in just a couple of minutes. Look at the big states that actually could make a difference in this election. But before I do that, of what you have seen so far, any other results that have caused you to raise an eyebrow? I was referring to Rajasthan, talking about Bihar, Punjab. I think the AAP numbers are very interesting. Any other state which you are saying, I'm not very sure this is the way it could go?
Vikram, since Mr. Tharoor said no one contradicted him, and if I keep quiet, I would join that queue. I just wanted to say, and I didn't think this is important to this particular program, but I did want to mention that in 2009, CNN-IBN, which was being done at that time by CSTS, we said 235 for Congress, UPA. And we know the numbers they got. And in any case, if Mr. Tharoor finds some time to look at track records of the past, I think CSTS didn't do too badly. And now I can say, as someone who's not at all associated with that team for the last 1 year. But forget it, that's not the focus of this particular program. To my mind, you see, polls tend to be off when it comes to disaggregates. Because that's not what they're aiming at. They're aiming at a nationwide forecast. Nationwide big picture is right. The states that I would not look at, which are reasonably clear, actually Rajasthan is one of them. Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, which have direct Congress-BJP contest. I think BJP is sweeping that. That's reasonably clear. I wouldn't spend too much time on the 16th looking for results there. To my mind, the interesting states are Karnataka, because the state level and the nationwide trend clash there. And the question is, which of them is trumping? The exit polls are giving conflicting signals there. I would keep an eye on UP. We know who's leading there. But how that lead in votes would translate in terms of seats, specifically the point that Dorab had made, that is crucial. It could translate into 50. With some lead, it could translate into something much bigger. So we need to keep an eye on UP. I would keep an eye on Punjab because notwithstanding what Mr. Narasimha Rao said, the reign of terror that the Akalis have let loose in Punjab could easily lead to over-reporting in exit polls for the ruling party. And if there is even 3 or 4 point over-reporting, which is not unusual, Punjab could throw a very big surprise. Aam Aadmi Party is up to something in Punjab. I'm not making that outlandish claim anywhere else. But watch Punjab, there's something very interesting happening there. Okay. And of course, I would look at Delhi, because I think the vote difference being reported by different polls is very, very different there. Right. So I would wish to see whether Aam Aadmi Party is improving upon its record in terms of vote share compared to assembly election, which I think it is.
All right, Mr. Tharoor, let me get you in on Karnataka, because I think, as Yogendra was saying, that perhaps of all the states is really wildly different results. I'm seeing one exit poll, headlines today, Cicero is saying BJP 8, Congress 17. Another one, which is the one which is shown on Times now, BJP 20, Congress 7. See Voter India TV, BJP 18, Congress 7. So it's really different. the CNN CSDS essentially seem to be saying something like BJP 12, Congress 14. So very, very widely differing results in Karnataka. What do you think is happening there?
Well, what we get from the ground is that we have certainly done better than the BJP. In fact, the old-fashioned political sort of feeling of the pulse of the voter would suggest that the momentum that carried the Congress to victory in the state just over a year ago has not dissipated significantly enough to give any of those outlandish results that you've mentioned, and we expect to be comfortably ahead of the BJP in the number of seats won in Karnataka. Perhaps as many as 20 for the Congress, which I agree is more than any of the polls are suggesting, but that's, for us, that would be a reasonable outcome.
All right, Mr. Narasimha Rao, your take on Karnataka. That's perhaps one of the most interesting states, at least based on polls.
Yeah, I did not mention Karnataka as a state where I think trends could go either way. Although polls are giving divergent results, I think we are reasonably certain that BJP would be ahead, despite a non-existence of a strong anti-incumbency sentiment in the state, which is what the Congress party is banking upon. You see, as I told you earlier, we see a discerning trend or an undercurrent, a strong undercurrent, which has manifested as a wave across the country, and we can't believe that Karnataka can be an exception to this. I'm talking about, apart from the numbers that we have polled, I'm giving you the other reasons why Karnataka does not seem like a worrying state for us.
Okay.
Second, the party is united today, and the Congress last assembly elections they won without any increase in vote share. So the Congress is very vulnerable in Karnataka at a 34-35% vote share. Congress is very vulnerable, and being a parliamentary election, I think the front runner, the BJP, would certainly be the favorite. So we are not really very concerned about Karnataka. We expect good numbers from there.
All right, Mr. Narasimha Rao, I know you have to leave us right now, but just one final quick thought from you. Your own poll, which I have in my hand in front of me, the poll which you've done, it says NDA 303. And I think one of the areas where you're differing from the others is, as you said, Tamil Nadu, where you're giving, I think, the India something like 12 seats out there and a few others. But 303, you think that's realistic?
I think we are reasonably confident. It will be, because you see, as Yogendra mentioned, there is an attempt on the part of the pollsters sometimes to moderate. Let me tell you, because in a state like Orissa, if you are getting 10 seats for BJP, it will shock any pollster. And similarly, in a state like Punjab, if Aam Aadmi Party were to get 5 seats in your poll, I think everyone will get jitters. So there is an amount of moderation that people might do based on the sample sizes, based on the margins of comfort for one party vis-a-vis the other. But I think we see the kind of momentum that it exists. We will certainly touch about 300 seats. That's what we are banking our bets on.